concrete thinking, eh? Yes. None of us are stuck with that issue, no? Has anybody been stuck with this issue in their lives? I think the reason we get stuck in the rut that we get in is because of this type of thinking error. You can't see the bigger picture. I was going to bring it straight to you guys right now. My kids, at their age, has concrete thinking. When they get older, they should think more abstractly and be able to see things a lot deeper and see the bigger picture. So if you're stuck, that means you're still a child. You're still a young child if you cannot wrap your head around certain things. So concrete thinking. He focuses on particular objects and events and doesn't understand abstract principles or see larger patterns, general concepts. He misses the point. Okay? When you explain something, at the end of I had a guy a while back that I explained something to him, and he would take only bits and pieces and he wouldn't understand the bigger picture of what I was trying to show him. He only started changing his life once he started looking at the bigger picture. When you start looking at the bigger picture, you start changing your life. You find many times in the Old Testament, you find the guys that are stuck and cannot move forward are guys that don't see the bigger picture. I'm going to refer to a scripture in 2 Kings 6:18. You know what the story is about? Anybody know what the story is about? Anybody? Nobody? With Elisha and his servant. You know what I'm talking about? Anybody know which one I'm talking about? No one. No one's even trying to guess. Guys, read your Bible. It's one of my favorite. No, not the ox. But you took a shot at it. I appreciate it. Nobody else want to take a shot at it. Basically, him and his servant were being pursued by an army. Right? And he says here in verse 14, therefore sent he horses and chariots and a great host. I'm reading from the King James. Please bear with me. I'll enjoy the King James. And they came by night and compassed the city about. And when the servant of the man of God was risen early and gone forth, behold, a host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, my master, what are we going to do? How shall we go? What are we going to do? No. And that's what happens in life. We see something, yes, I understand that some things in reality are there. There was an army there. But for you to walk the way God's called you to walk, you've got to know that God is bigger than that army. You've got to know that. And you've got to walk in that. Because if you don't walk in it, you're going to carry on in fear. You'll never move forward. You'll stay stuck. You'll stay stuck at that age. You'll stay stuck at that point. You'll never ever get out of the situation because you look at the situation. Now, for example, if it's a fact, if you don't have your matric, some people won't even look at your CV. Am I right? But if you stay stuck there, you'll never make a plan to get beyond that. You'll just look at this fact. Understand, truth can override a fact. God's truth is greater than some facts in our lives. There is a fact that we are sitting in a rehab right now. Anybody know that? We all know that we're sitting in rehab. That's a fact. But there's truth. You can go beyond this. You can get bigger than this. You're the ones that keep you stuck in a place like this. And I'm not talking about the place as such, but in the mindset that has brought you to a place like this. But anyway, so he says to Elisha, he says, look, we're surrounded by our army. What are we going to do? How are we going to get out of here? Because now they're after them in particular. So there's a big army around the center. So it's gone around this whole valley, etc. It's a fact that if you're trying to run away, they ain't catch you. All right? Unless you're really, really good, like a Scarlet Pimpernel, and you can slip and slide, but impossible. So he's seeing something that's impossible, and he says to Elisha, look here, what are we going to do? And he answered, fear not, for there are more with us than there are with them. The guys must have thought, what's wrong with this guy? Where's the people that are with us? We're in this city, and you've got this huge army around us. They're after us. What are you talking about? That's in his life right there, concrete thinking. He's walking with a prophet that has done great things in front of him, but he didn't see beyond what he was looking at with his mind and what he's looking at with his eyes. And I think sometimes we get stuck with that as well. Some of us have great things to face or big things to face when we leave here. And even now, emotionally, we've got big things to face. And it's real in our lives. But understand, there are more with us. There's more going for us than against us. We just need to shift our thinking. We just need to shift it. And he says here, and he answered, fear not, for they are more with us than they are with them. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, open his eyes. His eyes were open, weren't they? So it shows you there's different dimensions in our lives. We need to open our eyes and look at the things that are unseen. Is that not faith? Faith calls those things to be not as though they are. Isn't it faith? Isn't it faith? I like using an example. There's a mountain here. There's cliffs here. You see them? All right? Right now when you look at the cliff, you don't see anything beyond that cliff because it's a lot higher than your sight. But if you walk towards it in faith and you climb that in faith, there's another stretch ahead of you. And sometimes what we do is we look at this big mountain and we refuse to climb it. Or we refuse to remove it in our lives. And understand that it doesn't matter how much we cannot see what's on the other side of that mountain, does not mean it doesn't exist. Right now, maybe you can't see it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Every one of us that are here, we have a hope in the future. Every one of us. No matter what your situation is, what your circumstance is. But if you refuse to walk, if you refuse to move forward, if you refuse to leave certain things in your life, you'll stay there. If I don't walk out of this classroom at the end of the session, I can't do what I need to do. Am I right? Maybe I'll stand here and joke around with some of you guys, but I won't get done things that I need to get done. So understand, you need to move forward every day. And sometimes moving forward doesn't mean your environment needs to change immediately. Isn't it? Sometimes you need to stay in a certain place, but inside yourself you can grow and move forward. And he said, open his eyes, and the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots around about Elisha. Oof. Isn't that? See, they saw chariots of fire with angels. And it says here, when they came down to him, Elisha prayed unto the Lord and said, smite these people, I pray thee, with blindness. You didn't have to kill any of them. Just made them blind that they could not see. It's a different dimension. They could not see. There's also a story about Jesus when they tried to throw him off the cliff, and he walked right through them. Eh? They just couldn't see him, and he got out. Sometimes your enemy, if you are in him, your enemy won't be able to see you. If you're in him, your enemy won't be able to see you. If you want to live for yourself and only yourself, you make yourself a big target. A very big target. But if you live for something other than yourself, you make yourself a small target. Because there are more for you. More for you. I got a revelation many years ago. And what happens, sometimes it's tough to bring out your secrets or to open up, isn't it? Sometimes it's tough. A lot of the stuff we've done is shameful, isn't it? We're embarrassed. We don't really want to say it. Because we think, I remember, I think I joked around with one of my guys a while back. What happened is he was terrified to tell me his secrets. So, some of you know I've got a side to me that's quite naughty, right, Bert? So he told me his secrets. And I looked at him and I said to him, my friend, I'm afraid I can't counsel you anymore. I'm going to have to move you to another counselor. Obviously, I can see them in your faces. And look, you guys, really? I said, I'm only joking. Now we can move forward. Now we can move forward. Now we can move on. And you know what? After he did that, his load was a lot lighter. Why? Revelation is this, is that when you open up or you give one another your burdens, you no longer walk alone. See, when you got all these secrets, all this gunk inside of you, you walk alone. You're by yourself. Not because God's not for you, not because there's not people to walk with you, but you're not allowing them to walk with you. This guy here, he wasn't allowing God to do the work for him, but because he opened up to Elisha, to what he saw, Elisha said, God, open his eyes that he may see. Don't you guys want your eyes open today, that you can see what you need to see? Because everything you need in life is right there, you just don't see it. It's right there. It's right in front of you. But what you're doing is you're taking your issues and your problems and you're wondering why you can't see. Move it back. If the problem, the issue is still there, I can now see you. There's still the issue. But now I can see clearly enough to remove the issue, to deal with the issue. But I'm doing this, the likelihood of me walking into a wall or a door is great. And then we want to complain. Oh, God, how could you put that door in front of me? Hey? We might say, if you just look, you would see the door. You would have seen the handle. You would have been able to open the door. You would have been able to go through it. But because you're doing this, you're complaining about all that because you refuse to remove this. Your issues, your troubles, the things you are bitter about and angry about, does that to you. It blinds you. But you cannot see. See, the Lord has come to set you free. Doesn't the Bible say that whom the Son sets free is free indeed? Doesn't it say that? Then ask me the question, why do so many of us still so bound in our lives? Because we're hanging on to things. We don't understand and realize that if God be for us, who can be against us? We hang on to rebellion, rejection, bitterness. We hang on to those things. It says here, let me just bring it out straight away. Spiritual issue of this is spirit of pride and an unteachable spirit. Ouch. If you want to know if there's a sign, if you're being full of pride, if you're unwilling to listen to what other people have to say, especially people that have been there and gone through it. I remember as a child in high school, I used to like arguing with my teachers. Didn't last very long. Like arguing with them. You know, whether I liked or not, whether I liked them or not, they knew more than me. Just because I didn't like what they were saying or how they were saying it, does not mean they weren't right. If there's a teacher in school, it means they have the passion to teach you the way. So what makes you think you will know better? That's just a spirit, that's just concrete thinking. I don't like the way you said it. Don't like the way you look. Don't like the way you speak. Whether you don't like the way I speak or anybody else that teaches, doesn't mean we don't have something to give you. There's some people here that have much to give you. Some people you might look down on here, but they have a lot to give you. And the only person that's in the wrong here is you if you're unwilling to be teachable. If you knew as much as you think you knew, why are you sitting here? Huh? If you got to sew together, why is your life in a mess? Doesn't it tell you that every one of us, including myself, have something to learn? Every day. You know, they say that you learn something new every day. What something new did you learn today? Did you know? Let me ask you a better question. What something new did you learn yesterday? See, every day you should be learning. So if you're walking in the Spirit, you stop learning. If we're going to live for eternity, that's a lot of learning. Eh? And life's never going to get boring. If we get bored, we'll be 15 or 16 when we decide to smoke marijuana. No? But we've got eternity ahead of us. Eh? Imagine that, we're 15 and we go, oh, life's so boring. Let me get high. It's crazy. But the funny thing is, even crazy, some of us sitting here right now still do that before we came in. Eh? We got kids, we got people in our lives we can look out for, we got families, etc., etc. And we think our lives are boring? Really? I like what Pastor Jerome said many years ago. He said that if you're bored, it's because you're a boring person. Emotional effect, mindset, low self-worth, stubbornness, ignorant, and I like this last bit, an uninformed mind. So if you're full of pride and you're unteachable, you have an uninformed mind. And the funny thing is, if you look at the spiritual issue, if you don't look deeper than what you should, the spirit of pride and unteachable spirit will make you blind to see that you actually have low self-worth, that you're stubborn, that you're ignorant and uninformed. How to correct this thing. But before I go there, I want to give you some other information. Now you've got your spiritual side of thing, your thinking area, concrete thinking. But let me tell you something now. All these thinking areas are also fixed in solid form. Because here we go a lot on the spiritual side of things. No? Can you see the spirit of pride? No. Can you see unteachable spirit? No. It works through us. We bow our knees to it. A lot of us here don't like to have anybody tell us what to do, am I right? But you know, every day, these thinking areas, you allow them to tell you what to do. It's a developmental stage to get through concrete thinking. Or the cognitive thought process in a child. Remember what I brought up earlier on? A child. Many times when I sit with my guys in the office, the reason I can handle a lot of things is because I stop looking at the grown man. I look at the little child in each one of us. You know that your father, doesn't matter how old you get, or your mother, doesn't matter how old you get, still sees the little child in you. And that's why they let you get away with so much, because they don't see the grown man. So what happens is we get stuck as a child. And the only way we can grow out of being a child is for us, as well, to start taking responsibility for our lives. Okay, here we go. During this phase, thought becomes increasingly logical and coherent so that the child is able to classify, sort, order, organize facts while still being incapable of generalizing or dealing in abstractions. So one of the arts I don't like is abstract art. Maybe because I'm a bit concrete in my thinking. Problem solving is accomplished in a concrete, systematic fashion based on what is perceived, keeping to the literal meaning of words, as in applying the word horse to a particular animal and not to horses in general. You know there's more than one horse. Eh? You know that? Good. Basically, this stage occurs between the ages of 7 and 11, where you got this concrete thinking, 7 and 11. We are supposed to develop different things at different parts, different ages. Your environment gives you that ability to develop certain things emotionally. You find many of us, if not all of us, have undeveloped emotional areas in our lives. For example, the 7-11 abstract thinking, to grow and see more things more abstractly. You understand at that age, between 5 and 12 years old, you're supposed to develop the ability to either feel industrious. Industrious means you believe in yourself, you're capable to do things, or you have a feeling of inferiority. And that normally comes from your peers and your neighbors. So when you go to school, the biggest influence you, no longer will be your parents, it'll be your school kids, your peers. So what happens is, if you allow your peers or your neighbors to influence you in such a way where you feel inferior, you'll grow up into being a man and still have this inferiority complex. Now, you can't go back to that age and start again, can you? So guess what? It's very embarrassing for us, because now us as grown men have to admit that we feel inferior. Woman, we feel inferior. But we've still got to develop being industrious. So what happens is, when you're in school and you miss it, what happens? They tease you, don't they? If you don't run as fast as other kids. Huh? If you don't talk as well, you're not as good at school as other kids, they start teasing you. How many of you in primary school were teased? None of you. None of you. Only 5 of you. Gracious me, you're popular. Now, I remember, I was popular at certain times, but I mean, the biggest thing they did in primary school was say that you are not popular enough. Huh? You remember that? Popular. Do me a favor. What is, at ages 6 to 12, popular? Now, what happens if we get teased, or we get called a nerd, and we grow up, and guess what we want to do? Just be popular. So what happens if you become rebellious when you get to high school? You become popular, you get spoken about. Huh? See what happens? But now your confidence is based only in if you are popular, if you get attention. Isn't it? So you're a grown man now, and you've got to have attention. So you've got to bring attention to yourself. So you've noticed, if you don't listen, or you raise your voice, or you get into argument, guess what? You get the attention you want. And everything's based in inferiority. It's not based in being industrious as a person. If you see the person when they grow up and they're industrious, they get good jobs, their marriages are stable, because they're not based in if they're popular with the kids or unpopular. If they're popular with their wife or unpopular. It's based in being responsible and being industrious. And what happens then your popularity feeds off being industrious, not being inferior. So a lot of us sitting here feel inferior in our ways. So what happens as soon as we don't get it right, even a little bit, we rather walk away from it. Makes us popular again, isn't it? You miss your inspection. So you decide not to do your extras. Now you're popular with all the other rebellious kids, isn't it? Whereas if you're industrious, you go, do what you need to do, and you do what you need to do. And why do you do what you need to do in spite of you disagreeing, or that feeling you get of like rejection? Maybe you're not popular enough. You know that. Think about it. You fail your inspection. Your response is not out of being industrious. Your response is out of being rejected. I'm not good enough for Ralph, or good enough for the monitor. So you've got to change that. In spite of what you think he feels about you, change it. Become industrious. And then what happens? You feed off that instead of feed off the inferiority. And it's difficult, guys. It is difficult, because that's something you should have developed as a primary school. That is. Because as a grown-up now, you should have done it already. You've got to use extra energy. You've got other responsibilities. Now, emotionally, you use extra energy to overcome that. And it's difficult. But not impossible. Far from impossible. The only one that makes it impossible is you. And all you're doing there is this. That's all you're doing. Compare abstract thinking, thought derived from the senses, which reflects experience rather than abstract reasoning. So that's a big thing, isn't it, as well? For you to walk as God's called you to walk, you can't always rely on what you see, what you hear, what you taste, and what you feel. That's given to you to operate in this realm. But guess what? You have a spirit part of you. The spirit part of you is number one. So if you want to go into more abstract thinking and see the bigger picture, when I came here quite a few years ago, you guys know I've got a wife and all the kids, and I believe God's called me here to serve here, however long my season here is, right? So at one stage I thought to myself, how is it possible for me to bring my wife and my kids here? If I looked at it in the natural, it seemed impossible because according to law, wife and kids can't stay in the property. You've got to be separate fence, etc. Whereas when I was on the old farm, we were allowed to stay there, but then the law said, no, we can't have the kids here. So I had to wait quite a few months to finally bring them over. But step for step, as I kept walking in faith, I get in my car just now, and I go home to them in a house. Whereas years ago, I couldn't see it with my natural eye. But I could believe it in my heart, my spirit, because I have faith in God. I knew He'd make a way. But see, if I operated in how's it going to happen, and I left, I wouldn't be standing in front of you right now today teaching it. See, you have to think deeper. There's a bigger picture, guys. Not just how you feel now today and what you see now today. There's something bigger. Today's what? Wednesday. How many Wednesdays has it been from the beginning of the Roman calendar? How many Wednesdays? Many, eh? Many? You agree? But you know, this Wednesday has never existed. It's never existed. Over 100 years ago, none of us were here. None of us. And you know, when you get to the ages of, I think, 50 on, you become generative. What it means, you start thinking about your generations. And what's happening in life today is the enemy is stealing so much from us as young men that when we get to the generative part, we're unable to see what we need to see at that age. What I'm trying to say about generative, I went to visit a farmer a couple of years ago. When I got to his farm, I was blown away by how beautiful the place was. Just to set up the buildings, and you can just see it. But then in my heart, I realized and understood, this is not just him. This is Father, Father, Father. That's what I mean by generative. Because what happens is when we're in addiction, we only think about ourselves, only ourselves. We forget about the bigger picture. So that's when we steal from the next generation. Because of concrete thinking. Concrete thinking is literally thinking that is focused on the physical world. Is the opposite of abstract thinking. The physical world. Now, if we are spirit beings and we can't think abstractly, it means we are stealing from ourselves as well. Because everything you need is here. That's why it's such an important thing to have a good prayer life. Because in your prayer life, guess what you start doing? You start bringing things out. Great church, big churches. What do I mean by great church? Big church, a lot of people. You always find that those pastors have people, individuals that are praying for them continuously. You know that? Praying for them continuously. Fact, yes. Normally older ladies, because they have the time. But you have intercessors. Some of us, you sitting here, are supposed to spend your time interceding for those around you. Do you know that? But because you're so self-consumed, you're stealing from the bigger picture. Let me tell you something. There's another realm awaiting you guys. You normally find, even people that aren't Christians, you normally find they operate in other ways as well. I'm not going to get too deep into it because I don't want to treat in doctrine here, but they operate in other ways as well. Not just about the physical being. They take time out to breathe. Eh? They take time out to rejuvenate. Even in the Bible speaks about if you're a husband or wife, that he even says to you that you should sometimes take time out to rejuvenate. You know that? Take time apart and spend time with him. Then come back together again. Not too long, guys. Don't take advantage and go like, wait. But it's something, because when you come back, you rejuvenate. You know, as psychologists, psychiatrists, all those guys, they're supposed to take time out every couple of months. Because there's a big exchange going on all the time. Otherwise, that person that's giving in is going to burn out. Okay. Jeremiah 7:24. Hopefully it's the right one. After Isaiah, Jeremiah. No finger clicking today. Where's my finger clicker? Missing. Thank you. Appreciate it. Felt a bit awkward now without it. Some of you guys might know the scripture. It speaks about that obedience is better than sacrifice. And sometimes obedience can be difficult. But understand, when you are truly obedient to the Lord, it's not a stuff for you. It's not a sacrifice. You see the bigger picture. But if it's a huge sacrifice for you, then you're stuck in concrete thinking. Then you're not seeing the bigger picture. It says here, but this thing I command them, saying, obey my voice and I will be your God, and you shall be my people and walk in all the ways that I've commanded you. That is, may be well unto you. But they did not listen. They didn't incline the ear, but walked in counsels in the imaginations of their own evil heart, and went backwards and not forward. How many of us are backwards? There's your answer. We're rebellious by nature. I like that one Jesse Duplantis mentioned one day. He says that we were never meant to rule over one another. You know that. That's why it's so hard for us to submit to authority. But understand something, it doesn't mean there wouldn't have people in positions, but wouldn't it have been an issue for you to listen? So, hey, Rory, do you mind doing this for me? You won't see it as an instruction anymore. You'll see it as serving because of who you are in Him. Let me tell you something now. When you rebel against correction and authority, you're not in Him. You're self-consumed. And you cannot be the father you need to be. You cannot be the husband you need to be. You cannot be the wife you need to be because of that. But if you come out of that, you'll be the best father you need to be. You'll be the best husband you need to be. You'll be the best wife, the best mother you need to be. So you want to know why you're stuck and you're not being who you should be in the people around you? Because our lives are not about ourselves. Our lives are about others. You know that? Lives are about others. The reason you go the extra mile in this kitchen because it's about others, not just about you. When it becomes about you, it's hard. Go dry the dishes. No, I'm busy with this. Isn't it? You freak out. Why are you freaking out? You don't need to freak out. You're fighting the wrong fight. When you're arguing with the monitor, you're arguing with your peer, you're fighting the wrong fight. How stupid must it be if you've got a world championship fight coming up and you're a boxer, but you go and fight 10 other wrong fights before that next fight? Are you going to win? No, you're not. Or you're going to fight as you come in for the boxing match, you come in, you start fighting with all the people in the crowd. Before you get in the ring, you already got your nose has been hit off, your ears been torn, you got no more energy. Then you want to complain, ref, I can't fight this fight anymore. So you're fighting the wrong fight. When you're fighting with people, you're struggling, let me tell you something now. When I leave, I'll do better. No. If you can't do it here, you're not going to do it there. If you can't do it, what I mean by that is, if you can't do it now, you're not going to do it tomorrow. So everything you need to do starts now. Right now. Start learning how to get along with people. Start learning that you don't always have to be right about things. You don't always have to be right. It's a very freeing thing when you let go. One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible, I think it's Psalms 46, verse 10. It says what? Hey? Be still